Simple, straightforward. It's nice.
How long have you been trading with that system?
Literally since about a week and a half now.
Gotcha. Okay, so you're really, really green.
That's correct.
That's a good way to be, though, because honestly, that means you're super able to kind of get the right information and move forward. So honestly, that's a perfect way to be.
Super.
Awesome. Okay. Well, welcome everyone to the Super Easy Beginners class. Obviously, we have to go over the disclaimers and just go over all the same simple stuff we do all the time. But because this is public, we want to make sure we cover our butts and cross all of our T's and all that good stuff. So first and foremost, as you guys know, please don't trade what y'all can't afford to lose. It sounds very self-explanatory because it is. As you know, I'm an advocate for this industry can change your life. It's really not that difficult. I mean, it's simple. It really is if you're willing to follow some rules, but you still have to treat it like a business. You have to treat it like a real job, something where you follow rules and you follow systems and you do something systematically with an approach that's duplicatable, or you will ultimately fail. So bear in mind, everything we discuss on this call is for educational purposes only, is not to be considered legal or financial advice of any kind. Whew, I got that out pretty quick. So I love this little chart. It makes me really, really happy in my soul, primarily because it's amazing what compound interest can do, right? Einstein said something like, it's the seventh or eighth wonder of the world. Go figure, I'm going to mess it up on a live call. I actually did some presentation on this exact topic a few weeks ago, which will be available shortly. But either way, this is really all we're doing. You don't have to be perfect. You don't need 100%. You don't need 9,000 entries of the same trade just to show that you've got, you're pippin. Sorry, I said that wrong. You just need a systematic, numerically accurate approach to be profitable. That's seriously it. It's technical analysis and not a whole bunch else. So some basic stuff to keep in mind if you're trying to figure out how to compound. Take a screenshot if you need it, but it's elementary, right? Because it really is an elementary topic. It feels that way when we talk about it, but then putting it into practice, for those of you guys who are actively doing that, you know that having the rules written down and then actively following them are completely different things. It's no different than knowing what you should eat and then eating those things every day. It's still a challenge nonetheless. So there's no other questions on that. I'm going to get straight to the charts. I'm going to hit stop share. Hey, Cedric, how are you? You've never been on this call with me.
No, I haven't. And I don't know if it's just me, but your volume sounds low. Can you hear me okay?
Want me to yell at you? Is that what this is?
Yes, I wanted to seep in. Yes, yell at me.
Let's try the other microphone. So this one is the ETR microphone. Is that one better today? Is it better one or better two? No.
This one's weak.
They're still both fairly quiet, to be honest.
So here's what I can tell you. I can try to raise my voice and get really, really loud. Sometimes when I play music before a call, the computer and all the smart technology tries to auto adjust to this office of mine. And I'm assuming that's what it is. Now, I'm not that tech savvy, believe it or not. I'm tech proficient. So it might auto adjust. Let me see if I can't run a test.
It's adjusting, Penny.
You sound a lot better now.
That sounds good.
Gotcha. I'm like, okay, that's probably the best you're going to get, guys, unless I really, really yell at you. So, but perfect. Well, welcome, Cedric. I hope you I know you just got Simplicity, so I hope that you kind of find your way. Keep in mind, it's a different kind of a system, right? It's a counter trend trading system. So when you're looking at that in comparison to other things you're learning, make sure you're factoring that in as well, because it's literally the exact opposite of everything else you're learning. So.
I sure will. Thank you.
You are welcome. Okay, so you guys can all kind of see this. This is a portion of my VPS, as you guys know. This is just a demo account that we use for live calls. We use it for classes and coaching and all the other good stuff. So we already went over our disclaimer. We went over all that. I'm going to start off by saying, in terms of, where was I going to start? I knew this answer. In terms of this morning, so US 30 kind of came down, hit take profit. We did take a loss on NAS. We need a loss every now and then. Today was the day, and that's okay. So gold played out just fine, and now we're kind of waiting to see what else happens with the rest of the indices. So those analysis we marked up this morning in that call, they're still good, and let's see if they do go the direction that we thought, and if those take profits do stand. Otherwise, we know exactly what we're looking for and how to trade with that system. So I'm not going to be going over indices per se tonight, just to clarify, because I already got several little messages already. So just know that tonight is about Forex. So if you have any questions about structure, technical analysis. There's no question too big, too small, too brokerish, too simple. This is what it's here for. So people get nervous, and I got so nervous, like even myself, right? But total safe space for you to come out, ask any questions that you do have in terms of whatever it may be, and then I can hopefully help you. If you're on YouTube, I don't know if Donna is on tonight, so she can manage that. Let me see if I can't look for her name. She is. Donna, can you manage YouTube or make sure that we get any questions from there just in case? We don't get a whole bunch, but just in case, if she's available, then maybe she can check. And if not, that's okay too. So, but for those of y'all who've been trading with me for a while, you know we were looking at USD JPY. We've been waiting and waiting and waiting, and it just wasn't ready. So this is still a pair I'm definitely super, super interested in. You'll notice we don't have the simplicity entrance on this just yet. So I'm going to pop down one time frame to show you where some of the other stuff has happened, and I'll come back to current time frame. We got finally a signal on the 1 hour, nothing yet on the 4 hour. But the beautiful part of this is we finally got the impulse move. That's a powerful move. That's a momentum move. Those are what they call engulfing candles, right? That's oomph. That's power. We want that. We broke out hard back and retested where price stopped before, broke out again, and now we're going to kind of come back up and retest a little bit. So super in love with this trade across the board on all sides. I'm going to go back to the 4 hour now to kind of take a look at some targets. You'll notice also that I put the ATM settings on here. I don't have the actual expert advisor, but the reason I have it on here is to show you, even with a system that potentially does repaint, it doesn't repaint, it leaves evidence dots. Let me be very specific. You can still be highly profitable, even with any system. And I guess that's really the message, is to learn to trade these pairs, these things with profitable rules, duplicatable, consistent, time and time again rules. That's really all it comes down to. You don't have to be the brightest light bulb in the toolbox. You don't have to be the sharpest tool in the toolbox, or all those other colloquialisms that I will mess up as we discussed this morning. But it doesn't take much, guys. It just takes reasonable rules. So I'm going to go here. We know we don't have a signal yet on the 4 hour time frame. That's fine. We've got it on the 1 hour. We've got the impulse move, correction, and impulse continuation. That continuation is baby, and it's hard to see, but you can see we've already broke kind of structure. So you've got a lot of indicators that say this is ready to go. This is a good trade. This is a good potential setup. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go here and I'm going to hit my visualize. I'm going to turn it to sell. That's what I'm doing there. So I'm going to put my crosshair right where price is, and I'm going to hit escape. So I'm going to zoom in. It's not going to be exact, right? But these are the settings or approximate settings I would be using in terms of simplicity. And of course, I can go over that. But let's talk about, if you took this potential setup right now as is, what this looks like. You don't have to have so many take profits, and you can even have more if you chose to. This is just to help you learn to scale out of the trade. Or for those of you guys who don't have access to that, you can at least learn how to protect your trade, right? Because a lot of people will find a winning trade, but they mismanage it. They get in, they get out. They lose on the winners. They barely, skate by on the losers. And at the end of the week, they've netted nothing. Or worse, even, they've netted a loss. And we want to avoid that. We want to show you that trading is as simple as you're willing to make it. So there's quite a few pairs that are setting up on the 4 hour time frame, and I'll go over each of them, but I'm going to spend a little bit of time on USD JPY, kind of just going over some ways to kind of find take profit. So my final take profit on USD JPY 4 hour time frame, looking at an entry now, again, impulse move correction, back to where price stopped, impulse move that is breaking below previous structure. That's exactly what we kind of need to see happen. So you can decide to take an active order or a pending order, totally up to you. But either way, you can put a pending order down here to say, if price continues in the way I want it to go, I'm entering this trade. If not, I'm taking an active order, and I'm super understanding of whether I win or lose. Doesn't matter at the end of the day, because it's a basket of profitability, right? Doesn't matter. But my first take profit is going to be somewhere around down here. Now this is about 6.25 ATR. And ATR, remember, is the average trading range per time frame you're on. ADR is the average daily range of the actual whole day. So there's 6 4 hour candles in a single day. So just kind of bear that in mind. What this trade will yield me, if I come all the way down to here, is going to be approximately 165 pips. Now, dollar for dollar, it's not going to work out that way if I'm closing portions across the way. So dollar for dollar, I'm not going to get exactly that many at the full value of the lot size I choose. But either way, I'm going to have access to approximately 160, 170-ish pips, anywhere in there, 150 to 170-ish pips. This is going to be my take profit. Now, I'm going to zoom out and show you that if we break below this level, I'm taking it all the way down to here. Anywhere in here and in here. Those are going to be my final targets. So you can choose to make this one really long trade that you held forever, or you can choose to say, hey, this is my first, value of my first trade. That I'm going to take it here. I'm going to be okay with my win or loss. And you can just call it a day, or you can also let it run and kind of see how far you can get, kind of still protecting, moving your stop loss in the profit, trimming some of your profit along the way as price moves in your direction, just checking the chart once or twice a day on the 4-hour time frame. This is really, really simple. And finally, we know that 2019 was a kind of a low volume year. 2020 was a COVID year. So we're finally seeing the comparable momentum back in the market, the comparable volume we saw back in 2018 even. And that's a long time ago. But we finally have that level of movement. So now is the time to kind of come back to these 4-hour charts and say, hey, I can manage this. I know how to trade this. I know how to set this up to where I looked at my charts for an hour, 2 or 3 times a week. I made my money. I went shopping. I went to Aruba. I did my thing, right? You went on with your life. So using these settings, I'm going to have my first take profit here. Like I said, my second one here, if I take a re-entry, if I take this re-entry off of this break, I'm going to be looking here, and I'm going to be looking anywhere around here. Now, these are going to be far reached kind of targets. I'm not looking at these targets, guys, until we break here. If we do break this low, I'm definitely going to wait for that pullback and wait for that confirmation, kind of using my system personally or simplicity on a smaller time frame, either way, and take some more entries all the way down. So great potential trade setup. You have your simplicity kind of on the 1 hour showing you what's coming. And this has been buying, I'll zoom out again, make it super ugly, for quite a while. This is a huge move up that we haven't really retested much of. Coming down to approximately here is going to be that 61.8% retracement. So that's exactly kind of where we need it to be. Not a bad trade setup at all from the whole move, right? Anybody have any questions on this particular pair? I'm going to go to the chat and pull that up too. Let's see. Okay, if not, if you have certain pairs you want me to look at, put it in the chat. If not, I'm going to go through the ones that I've kind of already pre-picked. Now, before I go over all the rest of these, I'm going to tell you very, very directly, we can't take every CAD trade, although I really, really want to. Everything in my body really, really, really wants to take every CAD trade right now. I've been waiting on these trades for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, and it just wasn't ready. They're most of them are almost all ready right now, of course, at the same time. So just because we're going to be going over the same currency, remember not to over leverage yourself per currency. So you don't just over leverage per your account, you also over leverage per currency. So in theory, you shouldn't be in more than 1, 2, maybe 3 at the very, very max of the same currency in terms of the trade. So if you're in USD JPY, you can't be in GBP JPY and CAD JPY and Euro JPY. You need to pick 1, 2, I'd say 2, definitely no more than 3, but that's ultimately up to you. So we're going to go over quite a few. You guys have to pick which ones you like in terms of what's the best setup for your eyes. Fair enough. How do I trade US 30 using simplicity? I used to win now. Connie, I wouldn't use simplicity for US 30. Even on the small time frames, I wouldn't use simplicity for US 30, personally. Not to say others aren't doing it, not to say others can't do it, not to say others haven't done it. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't use simplicity on crypto either. Or any exotic, to be very, very clear. I wouldn't use it at all on any time frame at all. Even the higher time frames. Because here, I wasn't going to go to the indices, but I kind of always end up going to indices. So this is US 30, 4-hour time frame, simplicity template, right? Let's just, again, I'm not going to go back and look for a perfect example. We're going to talk about what is right in front of us. So I'm going to close out my market watch, okay? I'm going to zoom in, make it a little less ugly. Just 1, 2, 3 times on the 4-hour time frame. And the 4-hour is very difficult to give you an idea. the 4 hour does not auto adjust or give us evidence dots of false entries very often. And on this pair, we have 1, 2, 3. All of the last entries were no good, to kind of give you an idea. So if I were to show you these settings on almost any other pair, you're going to see how most of the time they play out pretty well. This one is a buy. For some reason, it's giving us an evidence dot that it was not good. I'm not sure why, because this was technically a really good entry, but either way, I can't control that. Other than this one right here, every one of these would lose. The majority would lose just based off of management. And that one's beautiful, obviously. The pips on that is what, 10,000-ish pips, right? But bear in mind, I'm going to hit escape. Your stop loss on this, provided you entered right there, is no less than 10,000 pips. That's a big, I mean, I don't know how big your account is, but you would have to have, give or take, depending on your leverage, your margin, and 100 other variables, you need $20,000 in your account if you're doing Hugo's way at the most leverage. You need $20,000 in your account to withstand this move. And that's, I don't know, depending on the time of day, you would have got a margin call, to give you an idea. That's why I wouldn't trade this on the system. But again, I'll hit escape. This was a sell, so let me go to sell. That's a 27,000 pip. It's just a big, big loss. It's too big. So this one wins some, which is a blessing. That one's awesome, technically, because of good management. But I just wouldn't use it on this. Just say no. Marcus, can you discuss the first entrance of your strategy on the 5 minute and then the re-entry on the 1 minute? No, Marcus, but you can come to the class in the morning, and Thursday morning, and I can discuss that. We usually go over that system in the morning, okay? But back to Forex, guys. I'm going to try to keep this mostly Forex. I know I've been getting a ton of direct messages. Can we go over this index and this index? And the answer, I'm going to keep that no. So let's look at some Forex pairs. I know I'm kind of becoming the index queen, if you will. Not even self-proclaimed. Other people are proclaiming that. But let's also look at Forex. Like, some people don't have the ability, the funds, the patience, or interest even to trade index because they're so volatile, they're so aggressive, and that's okay. So let's see if we can't help and touch a few lives with Forex too. So in between the process, fair enough. And you guys can unmute yourself. Same thing with the morning classes. I don't need to talk to myself all day. I do that plenty enough, I promise. Jenny, do you do? Okay, I will go over the EA, yes. Okay, first I'm gonna go through the pairs, so at least y'all have those, and then I'll go over all those questions. So first pair on my list is my very favorite pair at the moment. I have been waiting for this. As you guys know, we've talked about it for the last couple of weeks. If anybody is part of that bot company, we know that this was in trouble for weeks. This was just a mess. If you didn't get out on this pullback, some of us did. Not everyone's management did. Most of ours did. But mismanagement and misrules meant this was not enough of a pullback. So we've all been watching this from way down here. We knew that we were waiting for this to turn around. So still no guarantees. 4 hour time frame. We've got our little JLo simplicity kind of indicator here. And I'll zoom in to show you. We have this fake out where we do break below the 50. Again, a whole bunch of insinuendo that says, hey, this is not ready. We failed to make lower lows. And that's what you see here. This is a fail to break out. This was a simple pullback. This was kind of paying for this double top. It paid for itself. It got your measured move, and it was done. So this wasn't it. Lord knows I wanted it to be it, but it wasn't it yet. So instead, what do? We get the continuation. But as you can see, these candles are all losing steam. They're small in nature. They're wicky in both directions, a whole bunch of wicks to the top side. You've got a bajillion formations, even in just this little bitty section here. You've got double tops, you've got railroads, you've got tweezers, you've got vectoring. You've just got so much happening in here that's showing you, hey, wait a minute, this is it. So if I zoom in, get it a little bit more pretty. Oops, I did the wrong one, right? Huge impulse engulfing candle. This is what we wanted to see, was a momentum kind of candle that doesn't get rejected. So this momentum candle broke below the previous low. We came up, we didn't retest 50% of it, but we retested enough of it. Pushed up a little bit further, just a smidge, and boom, another huge impulse. The best part about this impulse is we broke a low. We definitely have broken that low. Now, granted, we haven't broke the previous low. We have to treat that, with respect that it deserves. But we've definitely kind of broken this trend line. Okay, you can imagine that here. I don't like drawing on empty floor; it's no fun. But if you can picture this trend line, we definitely have broken this area. Now, the odds of us coming up to retest a little bit before we get the sell off, pretty high. Let's just be honest. However, we're looking at selling this down quite a bit of ways. So first target is going to be anywhere in and around here. So even from where price is currently at, that's not a bad trade at all. That's 130 pips, guys. So that first target, well, my major target is going to be like 7273. So 0.7273. You can also choose, if you're taking the earlier entry and not waiting on this break, you can choose to say, hey, I'm going to have another target anywhere in between here and here. Again, you're just looking where prices stopped before. This isn't rocket science. So it's 7326 and 7358. So anywhere in between this kind of 30, 40 pip zone, not a bad place to be for your other take profit. So I'm going to duplicate this line. Ta-da. Gotcha. Anywhere in there. There you go. So let's talk about what your stop loss is going to equal if you take this trade. So your stop loss is going to have to be pretty big. That's 130 pips, guys. This is a 4-hour trade. You need to give this baby room to move. If that makes you uncomfortable, you have a few options. You can drop down to a smaller time frame, right? You can wait for the pullback. You can wait for the breakout, which means your stop loss is bigger, not smaller, but the trade is slightly safer, right? So you have some options. Me, if I'm going to trade the 4-hour time frame, I'm not going to get super over worried and over renting out my headspace, right, to all the potential what ifs and maybe baby situations, because that's a mess. The 4-hour time frame means if I pick 4 to 6 pairs in a week, in X amount of weeks, I've made a decent amount of money. That's what it equals to me. It doesn't matter what the news does. It doesn't matter what the president does. It doesn't matter about a billion other things. There are obviously some extenuating circumstances such as COVID and elections and whatever happened with NZD in 2017. But other than the extreme events, which only happen every very, very rarely, none of it matters. Just let it play out on the 4-hour time frame. Pick your 4 to 6, sometimes slightly more, sometimes slightly less trades, and it doesn't matter. Take the stop loss and go on with your day. Take your take profits, go on with your day. So again, looking at the trade manager. So I don't have it on this template, as you guys know. I just have the settings for it on this. What if you didn't overreact, didn't micromanage, didn't let your emotions cloud all of your judgment, and you simply let the trade manager manage this trade for you? You don't have to scale out as often as I do. You don't, and I'm only doing that mostly because this is live and it's recorded and I need people to see what they can do. I don't even scale out as much. I scale out slightly less than that. But what if you found your trades using simplicity? And let's say you're not a great trader. Let's say you don't know enough. You don't know a lot. And you don't know how to manage, that's for sure. So you come to your chart, you get in and trade, out of a trade. You're all over the place and you're not getting anywhere. Well, if you take your simplicity trade and you simply put a trade manager on it with reasonable settings, not perfect settings, nothing is perfect, right? And you let this play out. That take profit happens to be right around structure, right? And remember, this is set to 6.25 ATR. Not a bad trade at all. You'll kind of scale out and be protected. Whether or not you hit this doesn't even matter, because as long as you're closing with a net profit, that's what matters, right? If you're net profitable at the end of the week. So those are the possible setups. I will show you what you can expect if you were using a trade manager on a different trade that does play out. So here's a late entry. Your simulated profit's about 52 pips. You got a better entry. Oops, yeah, that's not a good place to have it. Kind of shows you, right? What about on this spot right here where it gives you a sell and it turns out to be an invalid trade? Well, with good management, in this case, you technically get a win or a negligible kind of break even, depending on where you enter. Where's the one that said 9? Let me zoom in a little. Zoom in, baby, no. Trying to find the better one that only showed 9 pips. But even on a losing trade, you don't have to take huge losses. Doesn't mean you won't take any losses. It just means you don't have to trade. There it is, 9. So even if you took that trade and only ended up with a net gain of 9 pips on a losing trade, that's not a bad way to be. So consider kind of maybe managing your trade a little bit better when you're trading with simplicity. Here's another signal. This one I think should be a loss, but I don't think it was. So there you go, just to show you what's possible. If you can manage your trades, regardless of what happens, and you just let this play out. Remember, this takes days. This is the 4-hour time frame. This takes days. So that's what I definitely wanted to go over tonight, because we don't ever go over the trade manager live. But Scott is finally in Duluth, and he is getting settled. So now I'm allowed to share this, and I plan on sharing this exponentially because it is a life-changing instrument. So there's that. So we went over USD, JPY, check. UJ, we went over CAD, check. Now we're going to go over CAD, JPY, just kind of go in order. Remember, you can't take every one of these CAD trades. These are just some of the best setups. CAD, JPY, 4-hour time frame. There you go. I'm going to minimize it, kind of show you. Really ugly deformed double top forming. We don't have our second impulse move that makes a lower low, but we have a failed to continue to make higher highs. So of the trades so far, this is not the best one. But if, for example, you miss the other ones, or you get knocked out of the other one for whatever reason, and you're still looking for further trades, remember, I'm only doing this call once every 2 weeks, and I promise you, let's see, this was the 1st or 2nd of February. This kept going up all the way to a month and a half. So we don't have to be in these trades forever. We just need to know how to find them a couple of times here and there, and that's it. So this is a good one to kind of keep your eye out. If we get the signal, right? We've already broken past the 50, which is exactly how I trade, right? So we're below the 50, which means I'm already in this trade. This is already kind of pulled up and we're down. I'm not actively in this trade, to be more specific, but per how I trade, I would already be in this trade because it meets my rules, right? I'm already there. We've already pulled back up, retested 50% of this engulfing candle, or not 50, but a good portion. And now we're pushing down lower. We've officially kind of made a slightly lower low. Not a bad place to enter. You have tons of pips to the downside. So similar kind of concept. If I look to the left and I look for structure, this is not as hard as we make it, guys. We don't have to. A lot of people make this look really hard or mathematical or difficult or rocket science. I promise you, with everything in me, it is definitely not. If you're taking the faster entry now, this is where price is stopped on the way up on the climb, right? I would have my first take profit somewhere in and around there. My next take profit is going to be based off of structure here. And then somewhere around there. So we can kind of see now and visualize what that would look like if you just had preset settings on your ATM. Preset settings means, especially on the 4-hour, I could definitely expand my take profit, as you guys can see, because these aren't necessarily as optimized for the 4-hour/1 hour. They kind of work in between the 4-hour and 1-hour best, I feel like. But needless to say, at least you're getting out with profit. So that's your ATM management. And same rules applies. If I break this neckline, I would be looking for a second entry. I would be looking for an additional entry. The odds are we'll get a short break, we will retest, and then we'll get a continuation. So just know if we break this low, I am definitely looking for another entry. So that's CAD, JPY. Anybody have any questions on this or any other pairs that you guys want to go over? Because I could just tell you the pairs until I go on.
Hi, Jenny. It's more just a general question. The arrows, when the arrows are given, is that like a proprietary formula, or is it combination of factors when the arrows are given?
That's a good question. Who's asking that question?
It's Kev H.
Kev, hey, how's it going?
Good, thank you.
Okay, so the way simplicity is coded is said to be proprietary. It uses a culmination of the previous triple arrows, and if you know what those are, those were the original system of Super EZ. So it really is just a culmination of a handful of factors. And of course, you can change those settings a little bit. If I go right click, simplicity, it's really closely modeled after. Yes, it's proprietary.
Sure. That's a good answer.
I really am biting my tongue. It's so difficult. Like it's a struggle, but yeah, it's really not that complex once you learn about trading, I promise you.
Yeah.
But either way, it is basically a version of the previous triple arrows, along with a couple of other rules that are kind of programmed in.
All right.
Right? Because people don't like to have an ugly chart filled with stuff.
Sure.
So it would be like having a bajillion things on your chart rather than coded real simple, make it real clean. Here's your one arrow. If you want the faster entry, put your number smaller. If you want the slower entry, put your number bigger. Faster entries are better on the bigger time frames. Slower entries are better on the smaller time frames.
Yeah.
And there you go.
Okay, thank you.
You are welcome. Okay, so we went over 3 pairs so far. EuroCAD, as you guys know, for those of y'all who trade with me, I've been waiting on this trade too, again, because it just wasn't ready. Like I really was convinced here. Fortunately, we got out of the trade in this in terms of some other systems that we use. This pullback was enough. Having said that, we continue to fall and have continued to fall and have continued to fall. So finally losing out some steam, and we have this beautiful, nice impulse. That impulse is exactly what we needed. Notice the difference in this pullback and how these green candles look. This pullback, right? And now if I come over to current price, I know my arrow is kind of sitting on top of it, making it a little bit less visible. But look at these candles. You have the perfect kind of morning star formation, impulse candle, retest 50%. That's a perfect railroad too. But then you have all straight grain, right? These are powerful, big candles with no hint of turning around. So odds are it's getting ready to turn around. It's getting ready to give us back a little bit, do a nice little pullback. But this is the impulse we have been waiting for. So should we buy now at the top, knowing there's 23 minutes left on this candle? We already have a little wick forming? Absolutely not. We should wait for the retest. You can choose to do a pending breakout order. You guys hear me say it a billion times, and I'll say it again just for giggles. Breakout order is going to be slightly more confirmed, but bigger stop loss. So you have to decide what kind of trader you want to be. So your options are pretty simple: breakout or wait for the pullback. And you can get that on probably the 30-minute time frame, I would say. 30, maybe 15 even, but I'd probably stick with 30 in comparison to the 4. Wait for a buy signal on the 30-minute time frame in conjunction with the 4-hour time frame, and you will get a really, really healthy, big trade. So to minimize this, make it kind of ugly, and again, look for some targets. So remember, we're not taking that entry here, but notice how perfect this area is. Price stopped here, price stopped here. So this is a really, really good positive target. This is a great target to kind of have on your chart. Next target, kind of ugly and zoomed in, it's here. And if I can't make this look simple, I don't know who can. So let's see, come up here. This next one's not as clear. So I'm gonna zoom in again, look kind of where candles have stopped, right? This one's a bit big for my taste, particularly for a 4-hour trade when you're already in so many. Can't do the top, we've already done there, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and go to the line chart to get a little bit more clarity. So that little line where I dropped that kind of lines up perfectly with this line that you see when we transfer back over the line chart. So I'll keep that pretty steady. I like it personally, and that's enough for me to be content. So again, come here for conversational and verificational purposes. I'm going to go put on my ATM. And if we take an entry here, it's when I draw my lines in the morning, it really does line up really, really well with quite a few of just structure points. So the way we have the ATM set, obviously differently for indexes or indices versus Forex, it is slightly different. This one needs a little bit different room, granted, particularly on the higher time frame, but it's kind of amazing at how well this lines up. So we saw where prices stopped before. We saw that with our own eyes, right? Let me turn this off. That's kind of perfect, and that's all we're going for. Same kind of concept. If we do break above this area, I'm waiting for the big pullback, probably anywhere around to the 250, before I say, okay, I'm going to buy it again and give this some room to go up. Otherwise, I'm going to take my baby bit and go on with my day, because there's so many setups, guys. We don't have to chase one. So that's EuroCAD, whatever. Let's see. EuroCAD. We went over UJ, check, CAD, and all those. So now the really fun ones. Guys, we can't take every GBP trade, particularly if y'all's account can't hold it, because here's the deal. All these GBP trades, they're going to chop you up if you don't have the right, not only tools, but the right leverage, the right amount, or you're taking too big of a lot size. So GBP odd 4-hour time frame, we're just now getting a fresh signal. I'm going to zoom in. Before I do that, I need you guys to visually see this trend. We are not going to take this trade unless it breaks this trend. We're not going to chase this trade unless we get a breakout of this trend and a retest of this trend. So just because we have the arrow does not mean we want to chase this one. This one, and I can't zoom out anymore, so I have to go up a time frame, is looking like this, okay? This is the daily time frame. Notice how we're at some previous lows where we have bounced up. We are definitely at a position where we're kind of retesting the 250. We could definitely come back a little bit, but continue up. We have quite a bit of formations going on here, bigger time frame. This doesn't have the same, what word am I looking for? I can't think of it. It starts with a C. Like it's not correlation, but a whole big pile of confluence. This doesn't have the same confluence as some of the other trades. So I did have to point it out because obviously we just got a fresh signal, right? So of course we want to talk about it. That's a no-brainer. We've got this beautiful impulse candle. Of course we want to talk about it, but we have to take that with a grain of salt. Impulse move is beautiful. We're going to come back up. Doji probably form like a morning star formation. That's great. But we don't want to count this as a trade until we break some heavy trending lines here, because the odds are we're going to get some kind of pullback and before we do get any continuation. So before you chase this 4-hour setup, make sure you have a new entry on the 15 or the 30-minute or some smaller time frame. Wait for this to pull back or wait for the break. And once you get the break, you'll be waiting for that retest. So I had to bring this up because that signal just came out, and I don't think it'd be fair if I didn't. I'm pretty sure GBP Chef was comparable to that. Let me zoom out a little. Maybe, hold on. No, not the same. Huge, big uptrending move. We definitely have some room to pull down. So I'll come back down to the 4-hour time frame, come back over, zoom in. This one has a little bit of a better setup than GBP odd, I'd say for sure. We have a sell signal that's already repainted once, right? This is our evidence dot that says we tried to sell once and it didn't sell, right? It wasn't ready, and that's okay. But now we're getting another one, impulse move to the downside. Beautiful kind of railroad-ish top, impulse move, correction, impulse, waiting for that correction and continuation. So same kind of setup as we saw in the other pairs we were looking at. Nothing like G odd. There is another one like G odd, but this one isn't it. So before I show you the winning trade, let's take a look at the losing trade. So if you had taken this one based off of rules and said, okay, my stop loss is going to be somewhere around structure, your stop loss is here. If you have better management, you would have got knocked out here. So slightly tighter, right? So it's not a bad way to be. So on this one, for example, you still take a loss. You definitely still take a loss, but it doesn't have to break the bank if you have good rules. That's kind of the point to all this. It doesn't have to be the end of the world. Even if some of these you will see a huge loss. This, just not this one. So 4-hour time frame, GBP Chef. We don't have very many Chef pairs. We have one other. So this one's not a bad one to consider. How you choose to manage, that's up to you. But again, same kind of thing. You can wait for a break, or this is going to be my first target. My next target, I'm kind of looking at this candle here. You can hardly see it, but it is there where prices stopped before. And it's just looking for where prices stopped, guys. This isn't rocket science, and it's not too hard. Let's see. Coming here. Ta-da. We've got a couple of good take profits. Odds are we'd be going down a little bit further. By how much? That's not even too much of that. That's not a very big retracement at all compared to the whole size of this move. Let's find out. The whole move is 1,300 pips. That's 500 of it. Unfair. That one's too tight. So I'm going to have to go all the way down here, looking at kind of where prices stopped. And I'll zoom in so you can see that. Zooming in to where prices stopped before. And that's it. So you get your signal, you take your trade, you have good management, and that's seriously how easy or complex this is. Not a perfect system, it's just a good system that you can use simply. That's why they call it simplicity, right? So we finally have enough volume in the market to where now, for those of you guys who were or have like the 4-hour before, this is a good time to come to your charts on Monday evening, Tuesday morning, Tuesday evening, even Thursday is not bad. But come to your chart, look for a couple of setups, and then take them. Some of these take days, weeks, hours, days, and weeks to play out. So you don't have to worry about checking your charts every few minutes. If you have management in play, You don't have to worry about checking your chart even every day, believe it or not. You can take your trades and still be on a boat. You can take your trades and be volunteering, you know, at your favorite nature trail or wherever else. So not bad at all. That's, which was that CAD chef. Any questions on any of those pairs so far? You guys aren't nearly as talkative as the morning people.
Hey, Jenny,
Weddy.
I have a question. On these entries, do we go from the 1 hour or the 30 minutes?
If it was me and I was taking the 4-hour trade, keep in mind, Billy, I already scalp. So since I scalp in the morning, if I'm going to have like an account that I grow on the 4-hour, I'm going to personally, now again, I can't advise you to do this, but personally, I'm going to take my trades. Like if I'm looking at this tonight, I have other things to do in the morning. I've got a lunch tomorrow. I am not going to be looking at this again tomorrow. So I'm looking at it tonight. I will either do a pending order or I will take an active entry. I don't do a lot of stops, limits. I don't do a lot of limit orders where prices come up and then touches it to go down. For whatever reason, I'm kind of adverse to them for some reason. I don't have a valid, amazing reason, except for I don't like selling when price is buying and I don't like buying when price is selling. So in general, I don't do limits. I do stops or I do active orders most of the time. Not to say I never do limits, but I'm going to make my decision now personally. And I'm going to take a couple of these trades and I'm going to put them in a Simplicity account and I'm going to let ATM manage them. And I will come back to the Simplicity a few times a week. And that is all I'm going to do. So for you, that's up to you. I'm going to tell you that what I learned from trading the triple arrow system is if you try to get, like, we had this one indicator where it gave us the arrows. It showed us what each arrow was doing on every time frame. Some people have an indicator that shows them like what the 4-hour, 1 hour, 15-minute time and stuff is doing. The worst thing you can possibly see is them all line up. That is not something you want to see. Because if they're all telling you to sell, that means price is extremely buying, right? So the odds of you getting the 1 hour, 30-minute, and 4-hour to perfectly line up at the exact right time is slim. And most of the time you get that, it's going to be because price is doing this, right? We don't want that. We don't want to necessarily wait for all the time frames to line up. So for me, I found the most success when I stopped looking at multiple time frames personally. It took a lot of the stress out of swing trading. It took a lot of the headache out of it. And a lot of the, oh no, what about this? And oh no, what about that? And oh, well, this time frame says that, and this time frame says that. It just took so much stress out of it for me. But for you, if I was looking for a re-entry because I wanted to pull back, I mean, you can do the 30-minute. The odds are you may or may not get one on the 1 hour, or you'd have to wait for the major move and then the major pullback before you get an entry on the 1 hour. So if I had to give you a straight answer, a short, to the point, not long-winded answer, it would be 30-minute.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
You are welcome. Okay, that's GBP Chef. We went over G odd, not the best. That one, keep your eye out for. NZD CAD, you guys heard me talk about this in class a few times the last few weeks. Again, like the other CAD pairs, I was waiting even in here. So we kind of luckily got out of that trade in and around here. But then, of course, we got another drop, played around, consolidated, huge drop. I mean, this was an account killer. This, because keep in mind, people don't trade this the same way they trade indices. I mean, that's a big, short amount of time for 200 pips on a Forex pair that doesn't move very much. So in perspective, a pair that usually moves 50 pips a day, that's a lot of pips for this particular pair. So now we finally have this beautiful double bottom. Now we finally have a reason to say, hey, we might be ready to actually buy. So let's zoom in. Let's get a little closer. Wait for my computer to catch up to my mouse. Beautiful kind of double bottom formation. Beautiful morning star. Well, not quite morning star, but impulse candle. We played around a little bit. We dropped enough to spring everybody out. And again, we're shooting right back up. So we've officially made higher highs. So we're not going to discuss trying to go for a measured move because that has already probably paid for half of itself already. Hold on, let's find out together. The measured move was 100 pips. We're already 30 pips into that measured move. Oops, sorry, my mouse is going a little weird. So same kind of concept. Measured move is 100 pips. So if I'm going to kind of come up, even to structure, that's 80. It's about 70 pips away from where price is currently at, if we're doing the whole measured move principle, right? So anywhere around this candle, give or take, not exact, but give or take, that's going to be your measured move for this double bottom. That's where your first target is going to be. Again, we're looking for a little bit more out of this trade than that, but still not a bad way to be. There you go. Again, just looking at where prices stopped before. And don't look at this as a line. We draw a line because it's easy to draw on this chart, obviously. We draw a line because it's easy on this platform. But think of that when we see this line that I draw, guys, think of it like a little small box, like a kind of skinny, really, like a belt. It's not exactly a string, it's a little bit thicker, right? Think of it as more of a box where you have some room on top of and below where this line is to say, hey, anywhere in this window, it's going to be my next take profit. And as long as we break out of here, I'm definitely going to be holding this for a little bit longer, getting a little bit more out of this trade anywhere in and around here. So don't love that one per se, but this is where prices stop. It's a little bit too close for my taste, but still not a bad way to be. So that's what I'd be looking for on this. And this one, again, I would be taking. I wouldn't wait. This doesn't have an enormous stop loss from where price is currently at. It's 130 pips. It sounds like a lot, but on a Forex pair, it's really not that much. It's still better than a 1-to-1 risk to reward ratio. Yeah, you can wait for it to pull back, and maybe you'll get an alert on the 15 or the 30. Yes, you can wait for like a 5-minute reentry. If you guys know the golden strategy, you can wait till you get a 5-minute buy arrow and take it that way. That's not bad at all. You totally have that option. But for me, I would take this and I wouldn't stress about it like at all. I would make my decision and live with the good and the bad that comes with it. Because there's a certain sense of peace that comes with that you can't buy. So that's why I would do it that way. And that she had, let's see, GJ.
We're all going to chip in and get you a better mouse. So that way you can start getting them crosshairs down pat.
Okay, ready? Who's that?
Jerome.
Okay, so I've got this really good friend here and gave me this mouse that is the size of my head. Okay, check this out. Ready? Hold on. I think it should work. Maybe. Watch this. I like my Apple mouse, guys. Honestly, I like it. Like, I actually enjoy it. So this is the big mouse. I should really take a picture. I'll take a picture of it and put it in the group. It is bigger than my hand. I have really little short hands. Okay, really, I'm short, so I've got little hands. And oh, whoops! Now I can just do this, huh? Well, there you go. I did it. See? I don't even have to worry about it freaking out. But now how do I turn it off? Uh-oh, there it goes. Is that what you want me to do? That right there?
Yeah, you just used it like you would use in the crosshairs.
Okay. I'm going to use it like I would the crosshairs. So now you guys are going to get this mouse for the rest of the night. You won't even get any dizziness all night long. I even turned off my special little baby Apple mouse, okay? But thank you. You guys can totally pitch in and get a mouse. It's totally fine. GN. We're going to go over GN. Sorry, it's kind of taking a long time. That's because I'm talking too much. Oh, GJ, same setup. GN, it's got an arrow. This is the one that I was going to say is kind of like Jihad. Don't take this until you break the trend line. That's too big of a trend for you. Oh my goodness, I'm going to get dizzy now. Don't take it till we break this trend line, because the odds of us pulling back and kind of retesting, that's it, Jerome. Now I'm dizzy.
Oh my goodness.
It's bad. I feel a little bit like a child, but it's fun though. I'll have a good time, I promise. That's 120 pips, guys. Maybe 150 pips, but we'd have to break this before I'm going to count this as a longer term sell. So I'm not going to validly take that sell. I'm going to wait. You can take it based off of the 1 hour and treat it like a 1 hour trade, a 30-minute trade, but just know that your target isn't going to be huge until you break that area. This is the one that was like Jihad. That's the one that's like, kind of give it some space. This one right here. So GN and Jihad. Keeping track. Getting all professional like. And then GJ, let's see. GJ is much better. It doesn't have a signal yet, but we have the impulse. Let's see. Beautiful impulse. Come up and retest. right? And now we're kind of sitting here. We have the signal on the 1 hour time frame, guys, but we don't have, we're retesting the 250 right now. We could come all the way back up to the hot zone, which remember is just a Fibonacci point before we continue down. So we may or may not get that much of a retest. Overall, this is a good trade. It's a good trade, but you can't take every JPY trade. You can't take every CAD trade. So, and of course, AN. And AN is the last one I'm going to go over. And then I can kind of show you and go over any questions that y'all have. All of the questions in the chat. So if you've got them, that's where you put them. But AN 4 hour time frame, let's see. I'm going to get it, guys. I'm going to get it. Similar kind of thing as we saw with the other odd or NZD pairs. This is a pretty powerful trend line. We don't want to just jump in this trade all willy-nilly. Now we do have an impulse and now we're getting the correction, but we still need to honor the fact that this is a pretty good trend line. So you can draw quite a few of them here. And if you have my little indicator, then you have slightly easier to draw ones. But nice impulse. We're definitely correcting now to get the continuation. Not a bad trade, but for how much this moves, I don't know if it's worth it overall. But if you're looking for a slow, steady, kind of really affordable pair, an easy pair, this isn't a bad setup. Not at all. So we've got our signal, we've got our reason to sell. If I were going to use simplicity, oh, not simplicity, but the ATM on it, ta-da. Other than my crazy mouse, I'm going to hit escape. This is kind of where my final take profit would be, at least according to those settings. And my stop loss, because of, well, where price is sitting right now, is going to be kind of tight. So that's not bad at all. That's not bad at all. Not even a little bit. From where price is currently at, my stop loss is only going to be 25-ish pips away. My final take profit's 120. So that's a 5-to-1 trade. Not bad at all. But also really good settings in all fairness. That's what makes that a better trade to consider being in. Okay, but that's all I do, guys. If I'm going to take simplicity trades, if I'm going to be looking for simplicity things, this is all I'm going to be doing. Is I come to my chart, I'm going to have my ATM on there. We went through many versions of the ATM to finally get to this one, and then we waited for more volume back in the Forex market before we really started picking up on it. We played with some Forex pairs on and off for the last 6 to 9 months, but it was really a pick it up and drop it kind of thing because the volume wasn't there. But in March, we finally got that massive volume back. So now we're going to kind of see what we can do with a system like Simplicity and the ATM. So as best of my ability, following all the legal ramifications and guidelines, I'm going to do my best to see if I can't share an account. And I don't know if it's going to be demo or not because there's so many rules and regulations, but I'm not going to put a lot of money in there. I'm going to put a baby amount of money in there and just take 4-hour setups and just use the ATM and show you what's possible. And if I can show you guys that live, hopefully, same kind of thing we taught this morning, you guys will get the know-how and the feeling so that you can back test this for 2 or 3 weeks and then forward trade it for 2 or 3 weeks, tweak and do it again. Forward trade it for 2 or 3 weeks, tweak and do it again. Very, very simple kind of way to become a proficient trader. So those are all the trades we have. Went over quite a few of the good setups. Everything else is kind of like, no need to even take a look. We can go over whatever it is you guys want to go over real quick, and then I'm going to hop off. But I'm going to start in the chat, and then I will go to anybody else who wants to talk. So, Marcus, I got you. Hunter, I really try not to, Hunter, because I feel like the best value you can get is in class. Now, if you have immensely extenuating circumstances, you can DM me on Telegram and we can kind of go over that. But otherwise, I'm honoring you as much as I'm honoring myself when I say the best value you get is going to be coming to class because you're going to retain so much more, you're going to get so much more, and it's good for everyone involved. But if there are extenuating circumstances, you can definitely DM me and we can figure that out. So, Felicia, do you know what the ATM is? Or have you ever used this, or are you in the Way the People group? I'll wait for you to answer. Let's see. Well, Felicia, oh, there. I saw you unmute yourself. Are you there?
Oh, you talking to me, Jenny? Felicia?
I am talking to you. You asked a question.
Hey, hi, Jenny. How are you?
I'm doing well. And yourself?
Good. What's up?
Okay, so do you know what the
What's
ATM
up?
is? Do you know what this is?
Yeah, the ATM. Yes.
Okay, so what is your question?
No, I was asking whether you could go over EA, Euro AUD.
Oh God, Doi, go me. Yeah, we can go over that pair.
It's all right.
I see EA and I automatically think expert advisor. So I did not pick up the 2 and 2, so I apologize. But
No, you're fine.
here's EA real quick. Totally different terminal. I would have never guessed that. Beautiful kind of
Thank you.
move, double bottom, playing around. We're still above the 50. We're kind of forming a wedge pattern. I don't love that. I'm going to pop up a time frame to get kind of a clearer view. That's a big drop. Those are lines probably from the other chart. We definitely have some room to push up, right? Come down to here. Let's see, go back to the 4-hour time frame. Okay, scroll over. Let's see. The 4-hour, you have a signal, right? And this, in theory, has not played out yet, right? It hasn't kind of paid itself off yet. Now, granted, this is, many days later. So this came in on the 26th. Today is the 6th, right? So you're already, what is that? Almost 2 weeks out. 10 days, not 2 whole weeks, but trading weeks. Let's pop to the 1-hour. Compared to the other setups we have, I don't love this one. This 1-hour trade's already played out. We came back down, we're coming around. So do we have the room to push up? We absolutely do. We definitely do. But for this one, like if this was me and I had to take this trade for a buy, like let's say I have to do it, right? For whatever reason, or I'm already in it. Our bearish candles right now are going down. So I'm obviously going to get a slightly better entry than if I took a break, right? So you can take the entry now and put your stop loss kind of tight. That's going to be too tight. The odds of it getting hit are probably too high. Your stop loss would have to probably be somewhere below the 1-hour signal, if not lower, right? That's going to be a pretty decent stop loss. This pair does move a little bit, right? Or you can choose to wait to take this break. So if I had to take this trade, I would. But like we talked about on some of those other odd pairs, I don't love the way this is looking. We had this huge move already. Big move down, right? We have the room to push up for sure. We definitely do. But we're not, this isn't like a beautiful double bottom. It's hard to see. It's not like super gorgeous and amazing. You got a wick that pushed off, but now you're staying in that zone. We're failing to kind of make this into a double bottom. Beautiful impulse move, correction. But again, we're not going anywhere as of right now, at least. As of right now, we're just headed nowhere fast. So wicks off of 250, wick. This is
Let's go.
Oopsie. I'm gonna mute. There you go. But wicks off of the 250. I'm not in love with this. I don't think it's a horrible trade. I just don't think it's the best compared to all the ones we went over. So you can choose to put a pending. You can choose to put your stop loss down here. The odds are you have room for this to play out. It's just not a great time to take the entry.
I will stay out till I find a better entry.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We might even get a new signal for this before this ends up playing out. We might get a sell and then another buy before this actually takes off. Or we could get no signal and it takes off without the signal. So that's a possibility too. So that's about the best I see on that pair. Sorry, I thought you were talking about the EA. I was like, okay. Okay, so back to the questions. Jenny, what do you run your trend period on the 15-minute time frame for simplicity? I would not use simplicity on the 15-minute time frame, Hunter. I just wouldn't, because of the nature of the system. The system is a counter trend trading system. It is a reversal based system. So at least if you're going to be doing something like timing tops and timing bottoms, y'all hear me talk about that all the time. On the 15-minute, you're going to get so many fake outs, no matter how slow you slow it down. And then the problem is, if you slow it down a whole bunch, you're going to end up with really late entries that maybe miss the majority of the move. So I just don't think it's cost effective. Like if you were going to use this in conjunction with something like the golden strategy or even Ichimoku would be a grand idea too, actually. So it doesn't only have to be my system. It could be Ichimoku coupled with simplicity. It could be any kind of trend-based system coupled with simplicity. You're going to have better luck on the 15-minute time frame. That's how I would trade it. Now, I will give you that information that says I'm reasonably positive Uncle P has his set to 20 on the 15-minute time frame. Don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure that's what he said he's doing last time we talked about it. So you could do something like that. But again, I just feel like that's too late, at least for my taste. So, Billy, you have your hand raised. You know we don't raise hands. We kind of very impolitely interrupt each other because we don't always know we're talking, but come on out.
Okay. My question is about the ATM settings.
Yes,
Do you have that recorded so we can copy it?
are you in the We the People group?
Yes, I am.
All right, then I will post the screenshot of that in the We the People group so you can have access to it. Because if you're not in that group, you don't have access to VTM anyways. But that's where you'll find it. This is just slightly looser. So the exit manager is a little bit looser than I would be using it on an indice. It's only slightly off from what I use on indices. It's still meant to, here, this is Euro odd. This is, for Connie who asked, this is one of the most expensive pairs to trade, by the way. One of the most expensive pairs. It's got the worst swap fee out of everything. So I don't trade that pair at all. But to kind of show you what that looks like, Billy, you'll notice the exit manager is a little bit looser. So it's allowing for a little bit more room. My trailing stop, my exit is looser. You can see here, my trail doesn't kick in until around the same place. And I limited my take profit only because I feel like it's the best way to see. Okay, you're digging in your pocket, so I muted you. Or you're digging around, sorry. But just to kind of show you what that looks like. It becomes really simple, guys. With good rules, trading becomes really, really simple. That's kind of the lesson. So same thing, even on a losing trade, right? This is a losing trade where it does adjust. Your loss doesn't have to break the bank, and it doesn't have to be very bad. So there's kind of that right there. But okay, well, are there any other questions other than that topic? Any questions at all? And then if not, I'm gonna go. Please take a look at all those pairs, and I'm gonna go over. I'm gonna tell you them again. So if you don't have them written down, you should. UJ, CAD Chef, CAD JPY, Euro CAD, GBP Chef, NZD CAD, GN, GJ, AN, GN, and GA were the ones that kind of be hesitant of. But those are some really good trades. And since this is recorded, we can go back over these. Not all of them will have played out. Some of them will have lost. There's no way around that. But I promise you, if you, for example, were to do a small enough lot size on each of those, and you took what the net gain was, out of all of those trades, you're going to see something around 60, 70% accuracy. You're going to see something around probably slightly more, as long as you didn't over leverage in currencies and have a margin call. But either way, you're going to see something above 70% accuracy. And the odds are you're going to have a net gain of like 900 to 1500 pips, depending on how many of those trades you took, just taking those trades. And if you just listen to that alone and do nothing else for the next 2 weeks and see what that comes up with, see how that plays out. Some of them, the stop loss might be too tight. There's other variables we cannot control. We get that. We're smart enough to know that. We're traders and investors after all. But just to see what's possible. So I consider I'm asking you to do that in your demo account if you don't want to do it in your live, but do it somewhere to where you can actually see what's possible with simplicity and good rules. So, but other than that, any other questions, comments, pairs, any of that good stuff? I'm going to close that out, close this. Actually, I'm going to stop this share just to make sure I can check. Over here, I'm going to, this big old mouse, guys, I can't even use it. I feel so silly. I'm going to come over to YouTube too real quick to make sure I don't miss all that. I have to turn my Apple mouse back on, which I do. I'm going to tell you guys the truth. When I'm not on live, when I'm not on Zoom, my mouse is beautiful. Like, I don't hate it. It works perfectly. Most of the little things I run into, guys, is I run into because I'm screen sharing a very tiny portion of my VPS. And then there's too many conflicting apps for attention. So then I get these weird little glitchy kind of things.
There's no questions on YouTube, Jenny.
Thank you for checking, Donna. So Albert said, I've noticed the triple arrows tend to repaint frequently. So you'll notice that simplicity is programmed to give you an evidence dot. So it is written a little bit differently with a little bit better rules, Albert, just so you know, so you know kind of how that's managed. You'll see it better. And then some other people. So, all right, guys, well, that's enough for tonight. I hope that you please consider those trades. If not for me, then do it for yourself. Actually, it shouldn't be for me. It should definitely be for yourself. Try a demo and see what happens in 2 weeks. And come back to me. You can DM me on Telegram and say, hey, listen, Linda, this is what I accomplished with those trades. You're going to tell me some of them lost. And if you actually trade those to even take profit 2 or 4, you're going to have a net profitable positive pip by at least a few hundred. I can't say how many because there's too many variables to count. But if you're willing to try that, we can help you become a profitable trader. So that is the goal, at least. I hope you guys all have an incredible night. I hope you guys all manage your trades well, protect them, and go spend some time with your families. So take care and God bless.